I think about this moment in history. I think about the fact that just a few weeks ago we were mourning the loss of John Lewis, a personal friend, a champion and inspiration, one of the real pillars of the civil rights movement of 1960s, who lived on to this day and carried the torch for so many years when it came to civil rights and equal rights. We'll miss him. And now, another loss of another giant. Though she was small in stature, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was an amazing life story, an extraordinarily bright young woman who just asked for a chance to get a job in New York with one of the law firms. But because she was a woman, they turned her away. That lost job must have been a disappointment to her. But as we reflect on it in the history of this nation, it was the biggest break we ever had when it came to the cause of women in modern times. Because she went on to become a law clerk, a professor, a judge, ultimately a Supreme Court justice, and in the course of that career was such a powerful and effective advocate for the cause of women across America, and I might add for the cause of men too. She made history. So that job rejection may have been a disappointment for a day, but as we reflect on it, thank goodness, she was steered to another path and used it so effectively. If you left this chamber tonight and walked across the street to the Supreme Court, you would find a large group of people, as you have since last Friday, pausing, reflecting, thanking, praying for Ruth Bader Ginsburg's life. They're across there tonight, lighting candles, dropping flowers, notes, crying, commiserating, really noting the loss that America feels. I was struck personally by my own family reaction. My daughter, daughter-in-law, and so many others confided in me in ways they rarely do about how much this woman meant to them. It was time for reflection in my family, and I'm sure in a lot of those across the United States. She had one last request, one dying wish, and she handed it to her daughter, and she said, "Let the next president pick my successor on the Supreme Court." It's understandable that she would do that. I know she probably had a hope in her heart as to who that person might be, but she knew after the way the vacancy of Anton Scalia was treated by the Republicans in the Senate, that that was the way they were going to handle her situation. At least we thought they would. And then, of course, Senator McConnell announced a 180-degree reversal in principle. 180-degree reversal. Instead of waiting until the election and the new inauguration of a president to fill her vacancy, he made it clear the Republicans in the Senate are hell-bent to fill this vacancy as fast as possible. What's the hurry? Why have they changed their position after 4 years? Do they doubt that President Trump is going to be reelected? Could that play into this equation? Who knows? But they're determined to do it because they have an agenda which is more important than consistency, more important than honor, more important than principle. Their agenda is to turn back the achievements and progress made by Ruth Bader Ginsburg and to leave the American people more vulnerable in their time of need. A few weeks ago, I took a poll in Illinois to see what public sentiment might be on issues. I was a little surprised how overwhelming the issue of health care still is in my state of Illinois. As I reflected on it, it made sense. We wake up every day looking for our masks, wondering how many more people have died, hoping that we can protect ourselves and our family. So health care is on the forefront of everyone's mind. And of course, protection for your family is always your first instinct. And people know that without the Affordable Care Act, they will not have that protection. We remember, many of us do, the debate in creating the Affordable Care Act 10 years ago. I might say in my House and Senate career, it's the most important issue I ever voted on. When again will I be able to help 20 million Americans find health insurance for the first time? When will there be another opportunity to make sure that health insurance sold in America treats people fairly? The Affordable Care Act eliminated lifetime limits on payouts, which is eminently sensible when you consider the skyrocketing cost of medical care and how so many situations in life are so darned expensive. It said to people, you cannot be discriminated against because you have a pre-existing condition. I remember the day, most of us do, when applying for health insurance was a long list of questions. And if you happen to just check one of those, yes, be prepared, because it meant you had a pre-existing condition and you were about to be charged a higher premium if they would allow you to buy health insurance. Families with children who survived cancer knew what that meant. Health insurance they couldn't afford or health insurance that wasn't available. The Affordable Care Act changes that and says you cannot discriminate against a person because of a pre-existing condition. When we looked at some of the pre-existing conditions, health insurance companies were boldly announcing, well, of course, gender is a pre-existing condition. Women do have to pay higher premiums, you know. Think of that. Gender is a pre-existing condition. That was one of the tricks to deny coverage or to raise premium cost. And then when it came to covering your kids, we remember what it was like, many of us do, when our kids graduated college, thought they were invincible, taking part-time jobs, no benefits. I remember calling my daughter and saying, Jennifer, do you have health insurance anymore? No, Dad, I'm just fine. Well, we got our health insurance and it cost a pretty penny. Now, under the Affordable Care Act, I could have kept my daughter under my family plan till she reached the age 26, when she would have had a better chance to have a job with benefits. That's one of the things the Affordable Care Act did. But the Trump administration and the Republicans in Congress have been determined to kill the Affordable Care Act from the day it passed. There were over 50 roll call votes in the United States House of Representatives to eliminate the Affordable Care Act. They all might have passed the House, but they weren't taken up by the Democratic Senate. They waited for the day, and the day finally came when Senator McConnell had his majority, and he was setting out to eliminate the Affordable Care Act here on the floor of the Senate. I'll never forget that night, that early morning. 2:30 in the morning, those doors opened. John McCain, very sick, we knew he didn't have long for this world, had just left a phone conversation with President Trump. He walked to that well, and he barely lifted that right arm that had been crippled during his prisoner of war experience in Vietnam. He lifted it just enough to say no. And John McCain's no saved the Affordable Care Act for millions of Americans. Did the Republicans learn their lesson? No. They decided that if they couldn't win it on the floor of the House and they couldn't win it on the floor of the Senate, they'd win it across the street in the Supreme Court, and that is what this is all about. That is why Senator McConnell has reversed his position, a position which he claimed to be principled, reversed his position on filling a vacancy on the Supreme Court in the last year of a president, and said that he is going to, with determination, fill this seat. Why the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Lindsey Graham, who is a friend of mine, and I work with him, had to explain to the American people why he reversed his position completely on this issue. And then he announced last night that every Republican member of the Senate Judiciary Committee was going to vote for President Trump's nominee. You would have thought he would have waited till that nominee had been announced, but clearly it doesn't make any difference. They know that whoever that nominee will be, they'll be hell-bent on going across the street and eliminating the Affordable Care Act in the Supreme Court. That's why this issue is not just a matter of debate between the highest-ranking politicians in Washington. It's a matter that affects everyone across America who buys health insurance, and that's just about all of us, to make sure that health insurance is worth owning and will be there when you need it. Madam President, I see some colleagues on the floor, and I want to yield the floor to them because I know they have their own thoughts to share with you. But it troubles me greatly of what's happened to the Senate. This big chamber, this big room, has turned into a museum piece in Washington, D.C. We don't entertain visitors anymore because of COVID-19. But if they were to come, they could peer down on the desk and say, well, that's where people used to stand called senators who actually legislated. We don't do that anymore here, very seldom. Instead, we take up these partisan causes like filling the federal judiciary with ideologues and violating the traditions of the Senate to fill Supreme Court vacancies. This chamber is just a room, but the Senate is 100 people. 100 people bound together by history, tradition, rules, and mutual respect. What we are witnessing now, with this effort by the Republicans to fill this Supreme Court vacancy before a new president is elected, is a violation of all four: history, tradition, rules, and the mutual respect that is important in this body. I hope that we can recover from it, not only for the good of the Senate, but for the good of the Supreme Court, and that we can come out of this with a determination to try to put this chamber back on track. This is a sad and dark moment, the loss of a wonderful woman who served this country so well, and this effort to replace her in a manner that does not speak to the best instincts and history of the United States Senate. I yield the floor.